Welcome friends to this small video on the normal structure of the kidney. Kidneys are present as a paired organ in the body, and we have these are the bean-shaped organs, and they have an outer fibrous capsule. So when we see the shape of the kidney, it has an outer convex surface and an inner or the medial concave surface. And on the concave surface, there is a hilum in the middle. And at this hilum, we have the opening of the vessels, renal artery, renal vein, and the ureter, which opens into the pelvis. When we see the cut section of the kidney, we have an outer cortex. A rim is made up of the cortex, and then we have the inner medulla. Inner medulla consists of the renal pyramids. We have 8 to 18 renal pyramids, and these pyramids open into the minor calyces. Later on, these minor calyces, they open into the major calyces, and the major calyces opens into the pelvis. Pelvis later opens into the ureter. This is about the internal structure. The kidney has a functional unit called as a nephrons, and we have nearly 1 million nephrons in the kidney. Now, what are the parts of the nephron? We have Bowman's capsule, where we have the tuft of the capillaries. Then this Bowman's capsule opens into the proximal convoluted tubule, which later opens into the loop of the Henle, and the loop of the Henle opens into the distal convoluted tubule. This distal convoluted tubule opens into the collecting duct, and later on this collecting duct opens into the calyces. So which the nephron is present in the cortex and the medulla? When we see that the glomerulus, proximal convoluted tubule, and the distal convoluted tubules, they are present in the cortex, whereas the loop of the Henle and the collecting duct, they are present in the medulla. So in the pyramids, we have this collecting ducts and the loop of the Henle. In detail about the Bowman's capsule. So the Bowman's capsule, it has tuft of the capillaries, and the inner surface of the Bowman's capsule is lined by a parietal epithelium. Now within the capsule, as I told you, we have the capillaries which receives the blood supply from the efferent arteriole. So from efferent arteriole it receives the blood supply, and in the capillaries the blood gets filtered, and again the blood flows out through the efferent arteriole. So these arteries, these capillaries, they are covered by the visceral epithelium. So we have a parietal epithelium which is covering the Bowman's capsule on the inner surface, and we have a visceral epithelium which will be covering the capillary tufts which are present in this Bowman's capsule. So when we see here the vascular pole of the Bowman's capsule, we have efferent arteriole, and we have a distal collecting tubule, or we have a limb of a loop of the Henle. So these three things, visceral, efferent arteriole, and the distal convoluted tubule, they form a part of juxtaglomerular apparatus. So this is mainly formed by the macula densa cells. These cells are called as macula densa cells, which are present in the loop of the Henle or the distal convoluted tubule, which comes in contact with the efferent and efferent arterioles. And then we have juxtaglomerular cells. These juxtaglomerular cells are nothing but they are the modified smooth muscle cells. And then we have extraglomerular mesangial cells. So these three cells, they form juxtaglomerular apparatus, and this juxtaglomerular apparatus is useful for maintaining the blood flow into these capillary tufts and maintaining the glomerular filtration rate. Now this from the Bowman's capsule, whatever is filtered, it passes through the proximal convoluted tubule, and here we have the cuboidal to low columnar cells which are having the breast border, where the absorption of the water and the solutes occur. So this is a cut section of the glomerulus. So as I told you, we have an outer layer of the parietal epithelial cells. Then we have a visceral epithelial cells which are covering these capillary tufts. Visceral epithelial cells you see here on the outer surface. Then you have a basement membrane, and inside the basement membrane we have the endothelial cells. Now these endothelial cells which are present here, they have the holes in them, what we call it as a fenestrae, and each fenestrae they measure about 50 to 100 nm in the diameter. They are useful for the filtration purpose. So these endothelial cells, they are present on the basement membrane, and all these capillary tufts, they are supported by the mesangium, which consists of mesangial cells and the mesangial matrix. Coming to the detailed study about the structure, the basement membrane, the glomerular basement membrane, to which on the external surface we have the visceral epithelial cells, on inner surface we have the endothelial cells. It actually consists of the three layers. The central layer we call it as a lamina densa, and the external part we call it as a lamina rara externa, and the inner part we call it as a lamina rara interna. So lamina densa is the central part, externa on which we have the visceral epithelial cells, and rara interna on which we have the endothelial cells. When we see the composition of the basement membrane, typically it is made up of type 4 collagen, and on this type 4 collagen we have the other glycoproteins which are attached to it, like the laminin, polyanionic proteoglycans, fibronectin and tactin, and several other glycoproteins. But the main structure of the glomerular basement membrane is type 4 collagen, to which all the other glycoproteins are linked up. And about the visceral epithelial cell, this is a visceral epithelial cell. If you see, it has some food processes. Hence, this cell is also called as a podocyte, because it has a food process. They are called as a podocytes. And these food processes, they are attached to the lamina rara externa of the basement membrane. It appears as if they are embedded or they are attached to the lamina rara externa of the basement membrane. And the space between the two food processes is about 20 to 30 nm wide. Now these are also the filtration slits, which are useful for the filtration. They also have a very thin diaphragm in between them. Now when we see in between the food processes, we have one important protein called as the nephrin. Now this nephrin protein, it has intracytoplasmic domain and extracytoplasmic domain. Now this extracytoplasmic domain is an immunoglobulin-like molecule. So this immunoglobulin-like molecule of both the adjacent food processes, they dimerize, and whereas the intracytoplasmic part of the nephrin, it combines with the podocin and CD2 associated protein. Now these two proteins are associated with the actin filaments. So in this way, indirectly, nephrin molecule is associated with the actin filaments. So in the nephrotic syndrome, a condition called nephrotic syndrome, we have mutation in this nephrin molecules, and then the patient will have a heavy proteinuria. That's about the podocyte. We see the mesangial cells. As I told you, in the center of the capillary tufts we have mesangium. Now this is the one which supports these capillary tufts of the glomerulus. The mesangium consists of mesangial cells. These mesangial cells, they are embedded in the basement membrane like material, which is called as the mesangial matrix. Now these mesangial cells, they are capable of contracting, they can phagocytose, they can proliferate whenever there is an injury, and whenever they are irritated, they lay down extracellular matrix and the collagen also. Along with, they can produce even the inflammatory mediators, biologically active mediators also they can produce, which can produce an inflammatory reaction. Now, with all these structures, the glomerulus is permeable to water and only the small solutes. The solutes, if they are larger than the albumin, they are not filtered out, so it should be less than the size of the albumin. And the filtration also depends upon the charge of the molecule. More cationic, they are more permeable, because the basement membrane has anionic component, so if the particles are cationic, they are filtered off more easily. Whenever there is an irritation or injury to this individual component of the glomerulus. So as I told you, endothelial cells, they maintain the glomerular perfusion, they prevent the leukocyte adhesion and prevent the platelet aggregation. If you remember, the normal endothelial function, the normal endothelial cells, they do not express any adhesion molecules for the leukocytes. But whenever there is an injury or the damage, then only they express the adhesion molecules so that the leukocytes which are flowing, they adhere to them and then the diabetes occurs. So they prevent the leukocyte adhesion, and even they have anticoagulant property on the surface. So whenever these cells are irritated, they proliferate. So there is a proliferation, and the consequence of the injury is there can be the vasoconstriction, and because of the expression of the adhesion molecules, there can be the leukocyte infiltration, and because of the procoagulant property, whenever they are injured, there can be intravascular microthrombi. So this leads to acute renal failure. This we can see in the focal or diffuse proliferative glomerulonephritis, and intravascular microthrombi we see in a condition called thrombotic microangiopathies. That's about the endothelial cell. Then what about the mesangial cells? So mesangial cells also controls the glomerular filtration. So whenever there is an injury or the irritation, there is a proliferation of these cells, and these cells, they start depositing the matrix. So there is an increased matrix deposition whenever there is a mesangial damage. And the related glomerular disease is membranoproliferative glomerulonephritis. Now the next is the visceral epithelial cells. These are also called as the podocytes. They also prevent the plasma protein filtration, and the important thing what happens when they are injured is there is a loss of the podocytes actually, and there is a proliferation of the cells. Both can occur, and whenever these are damaged, the person will have the proteinuria, and the loss of the podocytes we usually see in the minimal change disease of focal segmental glomerulosclerosis. And parietal epithelial cells, they are the cells which are lining the Bowman space. So they maintain the Bowman space, and whenever they are injured or irritated, there is a proliferation of the cells which cause the crescent formation. And this we see in rapidly proliferative glomerulonephritis. Then what about the glomerular basement membrane? So this is also useful for the filtration. It also prevents the plasma protein filtration. So in the different conditions where we can see the changes is we can have the deposition of the immune complexes. Now this deposition can be subendothelial or it can be subepithelial, or there can be increased synthesis of the basement membrane material. Now immune complex deposition we see in the membranous nephropathy. Increased synthesis of basement membrane material we see in the diabetic glomerulopathy, and in some conditions there is the formation of the additional layers of the basement membrane which occupy the subendothelial location. This typically we see in the membranoproliferative glomerulonephritis. So these are the changes we see in the individual cell of the glomerulus. Now there are a few other changes we have, that is hyalinosis and the sclerosis. Hyalinosis means we have accumulation of homogeneous eosinophilic material. Now that's what we call it as a hyaline change. Wherever we have a homogeneous eosinophilic glassy material, we call it as a hyaline change. Similar change we see in the glomerulus. Now this eosinophilic material is nothing but the plasma proteins which are filtered out or which have insulated from the circulation. So as this protein is getting accumulated, it will be compressing the capillaries. As the amount of this proteins which is increasing, that will be compressing the capillary lumen. Slowly it will be blocking of the capillary lumen. So this we call it as a hyalinosis. Now there is another condition called, now here we see the deposition of extracellular collagenous matrix in the mesangium. We don't see in the Bowman space, instead we see in the mesangium. In the hyalinosis, we typically see in the Bowman space because it's an insulated protein. But here we see the deposition of collagenous matrix within the mesangium. But as the deposition increases, it also will compress the capillaries. So these are the changes we'll see when there is an injury. Generalized changes, these are whenever there is a glomerular injury. So remaining pathogenesis of the glomerular injury I'll be telling in my next video. Thank you friends for listening patiently.